What is up, everyone? It is DJ Martini Midwest Reviews coming at you with another video for my channel. Today I have a really good one on Windows versus Mac, or Mac versus Windows, however you want to take it. And I just want to give my opinions, my thoughts on the two operating systems, the two laptops, and how you want to talk it. Now, I'm just talking about laptops in this video, but I don't have the biggest, baddest MacBook, but I've just been trying to dabble my feet in the ecosystem to kind of compare the two and check them out. So I have a MacBook Air 2017 model. It's a little bit older, but definitely I'm learning it, and I can definitely give you a comparison about a couple of things between Windows and Mac. So I definitely want to do that. So thank you so much for tuning in. It's DJ Martini Midwest Reviews. If you've never tuned into my channel, just know I love to do reviews. I love to talk about tech. I love to give tutorials and give it to you as easy as possible, do that research, and then leave some links in case you're interested in the product. So thank you so much for tuning in, and let's just continue to grow the Martini Nation. We're steadily growing. I'm up to 4,000 subscribers almost, and I just want to keep growing. So thank you so much. If this is helpful, give me a like, subscribe, and share. And thank you so much for the positivity, the great comments, and feedback. And let's just continue to grow. So thank you so much. Let's get into the video. So you can see that I do have a Windows PC right here. This is a Lenovo, and this is a MacBook Pro. It's a 2017. It's a little bit older. It's about 7 years old. So that's pretty old when it comes to MacBook. That's probably when they're asking you to actually upgrade to something else. But I'm still using it. It's still working pretty well, and I'm enjoying it so far. But it will lose support here really soon for Monterey in 2024. I can give the exact date when I look at my notes here, but just something to think about when you're talking about MacBooks. So I kind of want to talk about some of the positives and negatives, basically. And we're going to just start off right away with, if you are a Mac user, you're probably going to stay in the universe of Apple products. So if you have an iPad, an iPhone, and a MacBook, it's all going to work very, very well together. And so that's kind of why people do stick by Apple products, because they work so well together, and I will admit that right away. And so that's definitely a pro with MacBooks, iPads, iWatches, any earbuds or whatever you have that's Apple. Everything is going to work really, really well together. And so that's definitely a positive when it comes to Apple, and I think that's why a lot of people do stick to one or the other. Now, when we're talking about Windows, I've been a Windows person for my whole life, so I'm very, very familiar, and that's kind of the difference with that. So I'm familiar with Windows products, so I'm going to stay with Windows PC. And so it really comes down to personal preference on if you are an Apple person or a Windows person, and what you're familiar with is what kind of comes down to. And so I'm kind of weird because I've had iPhones and iPads my whole life, but I've never had a MacBook. And so this year is probably the first year that I've had a MacBook. And I'll tell you why I got this one, and it basically comes down to price, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I really wanted to try one and check and see the differences between PC, Windows, and like a MacBook. So definitely something I just wanted to get into and also talk about. We're going to talk about affordability, flexibility, and things like that. But like I said, I'm going to kind of jump back and forth between both of them and kind of give it positives and negatives. And so positives with going to Windows here is all the brands. You're going to have so much more brands with Windows. You have, I'll just name a few, like HP and Asus and Dell and Lenovo, and some of your gaming ones out there like Acer. Just so many brands of computers that you can get out there, and so they give you a lot more choices. You're going to have so much more choices with screen size and your memory and things like that, that it is very hard to make a choice with a Windows computer because there's so many options out there. So it makes it a little harder, but at the same time, there's so much more availability and choice out there with a Windows PC, in my opinion. We'll stay kind of with Windows here, and then we'll talk about some of the things that are still positives in my opinion, which is gaming. I think gaming is very, very important because any big gamer out there has probably a Windows PC. They're not gaming on Apple PC or on a MacBook, so they're not going to be doing that because all the games, AAA games, are mostly on Windows PC. So that's kind of where we're at, and so I definitely give gaming to Windows as well. In my opinion, I really like the way the file system is for Windows with File Explorer, but that's just my opinion. That's going to be up to everybody, but I've always been a big fan of the way it is and the way it works, the way you can exit out of it and actually exit out of the program on MacBook. If you hit the red X, the circle X, it closes it, but it doesn't actually close the file completely or close the item. It goes down to the app, and then you gotta go to the app and you gotta close the app. So it is kind of weird there. Another positive with Windows, in my opinion, is the way you can modify them. You can't really do that with Apple. If you can, you have to be very professional and know how to do it, and it's not as easy. So I can get in, and I can change the RAM, I can change a battery out, I can do an upgrade to the hard drive. I can do that a lot easier on most of my PCs, and I wouldn't even probably think about it on a MacBook because it just is not as easy and it's not as accessible to be able to do so. So the way you can upgrade a Windows PC is definitely a lot better, in my opinion, than a MacBook. So it kind of goes to that too for Windows. But let's talk about a couple negatives with Windows, in my opinion. And one is like the pop-ups. Like when you buy a Windows PC, it's going to have all kinds of apps that you might not want. So you're going to just have some unwanted stuff in there. It's going to have, all kinds of pop-ups. Hey, do this, do that. And, that's not as cool because it's kind of, annoying. Another thing is all the updates. I'm constantly doing Windows updates, with the actual operating system and with the apps. So definitely a lot of updates, which is also annoying with their security updates and just all kinds of updates. I don't see that happening as much with the MacBook. Now I do have an older MacBook, but I still don't notice the operating system updating as much. So that is definitely a negative. Also a negative, in my opinion, lack of like AirDrop and file sharing is easy, just on over Wi-Fi and things like that, because it's very easy with the AirDrop on this MacBook than it is with a Windows PC. Now I know Microsoft Explorer has some things that you can share things very easily and it'll update automatically, or share pictures and things, and they also have Dropbox and Nearby Share and things like that. But AirDrop just seems very, very easy, and also, like I said, the way that all that ecosystem with MacBook connects to each other is very awesome. So when I have my MacBook on and I have a picture, it might, or a text, I'll get it on my phone, but it will pop up on my laptop, and it also could pop up on my tablet as well, or my iPad. So it definitely, the way they all work together is very, very cool, and I do like that about Mac. And it's not as good on Windows, in my opinion. Also, I will say that MacBooks do sell. They hold their value a little bit longer than a Windows computer. You can easily find a very, very expensive Windows computer selling on eBay for half price. Then a MacBook a couple of years down the road will still sell at a pretty high price compared to a Windows computer. So definitely resale, I would definitely give that to a MacBook. There's minor differences when it comes to like a taskbar and what they call the dock on the bottom. The operating systems are definitely different. Like I said, when you close an app on Windows, it actually closes everything once you hit the X, but on MacBook it actually just doesn't completely close it. It just shuts down the window, and then you actually have to close it in the app on the bottom by saying exit. Moving files around is definitely different on both. So that's just going to be personal preference, but I like the operating system on Windows. I think it's just more intuitive, easier to use, but that's my opinion. Like I said, if you're working with Macs for your whole life, you might think that MacBook's operating system is a lot easier to use. And I was even a iPhone and iPad user, always use them, but when I went to MacBook, it just seemed different, so the computer system just seemed different, so it wasn't very familiar for me. Even though I had Apple products, it just didn't seem like an easy transition compared to just the way I was using Windows. I will give a positive to MacBooks for build. They do have like metal bodies most of the time, and PCs have plastic most of the time, so they are well built, durable. They usually work very well. They also have great cameras in them all the time. The microphones also sound very well. With the new MacBooks, battery life is better. On this one, it's not as good, but on new MacBooks, the battery life is better than most PC Windows computers. These might have a little bit more heat, but they don't have giant fans on them that make them really, really loud. So that's cool. That's a positive that goes to Mac. And a negative that goes to Windows, because when this thing fires up and it's doing some updates or something, it sounds like a small engine that is on. It's pretty loud for the most part. So, and then you'll hear that fan, and you definitely hear it. But on a MacBook, you don't notice that as much. But it might run a little cooler because of those fans. But definitely loud and kind of annoying sometimes. The longevity, of course, top for 7 years, and it's going to be, the operating system is going to be discontinued here really soon, and so 7 years on a laptop is not very long in my opinion. I know they say to probably update your laptop every 5 years, but I know Windows computers, like I have a 2014 Windows computers that I still use, so that's going to be 10 years old, and I can still use it. Until they lose the support for Windows 10, I'll be able to use that, I think, which is not till 2025. I'll still be able to use that computer, and even then I think there might be a way to even put Windows 11 on an older computer, because they have workarounds for that now too. So, but I know you can use Windows computers a lot longer than you can use an Apple computer before it loses total support. So definitely lasts a little longer. Also, like I said, it's easier to upgrade and keep it working so it can keep up with the standards for today. So I can upgrade the RAM, I can put better SSDs in it, I can do things within it a lot easier to keep it up to date than I can with a Mac. So I would definitely give that to Windows for longevity on how long I get to keep that computer. Also, like I said, once again, the options are a lot more with brands, screen sizes. I know a MacBook only comes in like a 13, I think a 15 and a 16. But I can get a Windows computer in 11, 13, 17. So definitely I can have more options with screen size. Also, price. We're going to talk about price real quick, and you definitely, one thing included in the price is storage, and you definitely pay a lot more for storage with a MacBook than you will pay for a Windows computer. Let's just talk about price right here. Of course, I believe Windows is going to take price, because you can get a Windows computer for $300 these days. You have to pay for the entry-level MacBook Air, you have to pay $1,000 right off the bat. And even a used one, you're still going to pay $600, for a newer used one. They definitely hold their value, like I said, and so you're not going to find that kind of price point for a Mac computer unless it's super old and almost outdated. But you will find a Windows computer very, very bargained priced, and would still do a lot of things that you want it to be able to do for that price point. Price point would definitely go to Windows, but like I said, you can get a Mac Air for $1,000, but if you want a Pro 14-inch, you're gonna have to get up to $1,600. So definitely going up there. You can get a 13-inch MacBook for $999, 14-inch MacBook Pro for $1,600, a 15-inch for $1,300, and then a 16-inch for $2,499, or even their M3 Max now that has crazy specs, but that is $3,500. So definitely a lot more pricey for a Mac, but like I said, you get a couple extra things, maybe different size screens and stuff as well with Windows. One last thing that I want to add is the MagSafe chargers. And like I said, battery life with the new MacBooks is really great. I think they're saying like up to 12 hours and things like that. So battery life, they have been getting better with the MacBooks. This one definitely doesn't get that, but they are kind of better than some Windows computers. So I will give battery life to that. And then also I really like the MagSafe chargers on Apple's. It can save your computer from taking a trip to the floor if you were to trip on the power cord or something, because usually they'll break away really easy with the magnetic chargers that they have compared to some of the laptops, Windows laptops, which really kind of plug into them really well, and usually they stay with the laptop a little bit and they'll pull your laptop down with them. So I think a MagSafe charger was a cool invention to be able to break away really easy, that it won't take down your laptop sometimes, but sometimes it will. I think that's about it. I guess my final thoughts is in my opinion, I just think Windows just has a little bit more of what I need in my life when it comes to what I want for gaming, for the way I can change things easily. I can work on it myself, things like that. So a lot of that stuff is things that I think is important. And so I do like that about Windows PCs. And so that's kind of why I'll stay with them. But like I said, I do understand how well MacBook, especially like the Pros and the more expensive models, the new models, how they work. And I do understand how people really love them for productivity, especially when it comes to like Photoshop and things like that. Absolutely great big powerhouse PCs that are built well, great chassis, great cameras, great microphones, things like that. Most of the time good screens as well, but of course Windows does have OLED screens too out there for certain prices, but comparable there. Like I said, that's why I'm not really going into specs, but I do know that MacBook does make a great laptop. I do respect what they do. I am enjoying messing with the one that I have here, even though it's an older model. Still, like I said, for some of the other things and longevity as well, how long I know I can hold on to a Windows PC and it'll still be able to work and get updated, and I can modify it to make it better as well. I do enjoy things like that make me like, and price point to make me like and hang on to my Windows computers and continue to use Windows computers as well. So Apple and Mac continue to get better and make better apps as well. Apps is definitely a different thing too, because there are certain apps on Windows and certain apps on Mac's ecosystem, so you might not be able to find what you want to use. But I do like on Windows, an older app will still work on Windows, and maybe an older app on an older MacBook will not work on a MacBook. So like I can't use new Photoshop programs on this Mac that I wanted to use, but I can use some older ones. And so I don't like that about Mac, that it can't do some things with some newer apps that I could always try to use. Maybe they wouldn't work very well, but at least I could try to use them on a Windows PC, but it won't even let me use them on a Mac, and so you don't run into that as much on a Windows PC. Even though it's an Apple app, it still won't let me use it because it says I need to upgrade my computer. So I don't find that with Windows either. So hopefully that was a lot of information, and hopefully it was helpful to maybe one person out there. Thank you so much for staying tuned for this long. And you know, I got plenty of other tech videos, item reviews, tutorials to talk about. So thank you so much for tuning in. A lot more content in 2024. Hopefully, like I said, this is helpful, and hopefully I'll see you on my next video really, really soon. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next video.